Ballyhoo Channel App Radio. What's going on, OKC? Ballyhoo Channel App Radio. Broadcasting live. If you are tuned in, thank you. Thank you. I want to say that first of all. Now, I have a special guest with me in the building right now. Now, I don't want to necessarily say guest, but that's kind of the situation now. Hopefully this can, manifest into something.
Yes.
But I have someone special. I want to introduce Miss Elizabeth
Go ahead.
Turner. Go ahead. How you doing today? How you doing?
I'm blessed. And I'm so glad to be here with you.
Yeah, we're doing our thing. That's the long applause.
Yes.
Introduction to it. Now, for the most part, introducing you to the community.
Hello, community. Hi.
You're here.
Yes.
Hey, guys, honestly, over here on the Ballyhoo Channel App Radio, how we operate, everything is very organic. I couldn't force it if I tried. So I'm really going to kind of sit back and, get this knowledge because I really feel like there's someone in the building that is not just talking. Go ahead and let the people know who you are and kind of what's going on with you today. How you feeling? You kind of go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so I am so glad to be here on the radio. Yay. I wanted to talk. I've had so much stuff on my mind that I wanted to talk about. So for you to give me an opportunity to get it off, hey, this is all good. I am a teacher. That's what I do. And I have, my spirit has been filled with the desire, and this comes from my ancestors, to pass on the information that I have acquired. And that information is about my main concept, which you see on the screen. Pretty isn't pretty. That's my love. That's my passion. That's what I know. That's what I teach other people and show them. Because we've been taught a concept of pretty. And we see that visually, but that concept is not accurate. It's not true. It's an illusion. And what I want to do is try and teach, not teaching you all. If we teach, that means it goes into your brain. You got 5 senses. On the radio, I can only deal with one, so you can only listen to me. So I have to try and make a picture and get you to understand. So if you really want to understand this, the concept, pretty isn't pretty, that what I'm saying is literal. I'm not being rhetorical, meaning I'm not just talking. When I say the idea and the concept, pretty isn't pretty, it's what you've been trained to see. That is the truth. So if you take out your phones where you are and you look up, what does it take to see an object, or how do I see an object? It will show you that in order for you to see, the first thing you need is light. That light has to shine on the object, and then that reflection goes into your eye. When it goes into your eye, your brain tells you what you're looking at. This is the information I've been trying to get people to understand, because when we come on the scene, they've taught us, the system has shown us this image, and we have this concept of beauty. And so then all of the rest of us are running around trying to match that concept, trying to fit that. That's why they sell. And I heard a young brother say, if you are not satisfied with yourself because you're listening to somebody else's input, you don't think you're pretty. It's because someone else has taught you that this is pretty, and if you don't look like that, that means you're not that. That's a problem. That concept is a problem. They make a lot of money off of it, don't they? Because they sell a lot of what?
Products that gear you to, become pretty. I mean, from their standpoint of what you need to.
Exactly. And is that you? Are you pretty, or is your makeup on well?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, and in truth, when a person understands that, you can discard all that and you can just be yourself and realize that I was born pretty.
Okay.
Now, I don't expect other people to look at me and think I'm pretty. I think I'm pretty. And I don't think nobody is prettier than me. And nobody else should think somebody else is prettier than them.
Okay.
Because we all come here unique as individuals. God made you the way you are. Well, actually, your parents made you the way you are. Because you got genes from your mother, came to you in the sperm. Genes from your mother came to you in the egg. Genes from your father came to you in the sperm.
Right.
And when those two came together, they made a new life. And that's you. That's your genes. That's why you look the way you look. So when people come on the scene and they say this one is pretty and this one is ugly, that's an opinion. That's not a fact. So we have to know the difference between fact and opinion. And we came on today to a peekaboo, and the gentleman was saying what they talking about. They ain't talking about nothing. You guys, there are so many people on radios, on TV talking, but they ain't talking about nothing. It's a bunch of garbage. I mean, truth. We don't, in this country, we don't even really get the news from around the world. If you're watching the news, mainstream news, what they ain't talking about nothing, right? So where would you go to find out what's going on around the world? That's what we need to know. What's going on in other places, not just here, right? Because I don't know how we see ourselves or what you see in yourself. Well, let me back that up. Let me just say, I'm an educator, a teacher. I've been doing that for the past 20 years. And I deal with our young people, right? And our young people, when I talk to them, you'll find out the behavior. I'm sure you've seen this. The behavior in some of these classrooms is off the chain, right? You've seen it. You've seen the fights. You've seen the behavior. And where is that coming from? What is that stemming from, right? Why are the children off the chain? Are the children off the chain? First, that's a question.
Right. That is a question.
With that? Yes.
Are we comparing, or is it just something we're looking at? That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Okay, so the question would be, how would you expect them to act? How would you want them to act?
Yeah.
Right? So when you go into the classroom, what would you expect to happen in the classroom? Because I'm a teacher, a science teacher.
Right.
You would expect the students to come in, take a seat,
Right.
and be prepared to receive information.
Right.
That doesn't happen.
Right.
That doesn't happen most times.
Okay.
And why is that?
Well, like you said, I mean, what they've been taught or shown.
What they've been taught or shown, and behavior. And so the classrooms, for the most part, are off the chain, and they need a lot of help. Just between me and you, just so you know, the classrooms need our help. They need some parents to go in those classrooms, be a part of that system. That would help. But education, we're going to talk education. What is education? If you go into a classroom, you sit down, and you write everything the teacher says.
Okay.
You do everything they say, and you come out at the end of the year and you get an A, right? Because you've done everything they say. And then I ask you, let's say it's a math class, and I ask you, well, what's 3 times 8? And if you can't tell me that, that's a problem.
Right.
You understand? We have students who are going through school, going through math class, and they don't know basic multiplication facts. Is that their fault? No, that's not their fault. That's the fault of the system. And many people will tell you that the system is not designed to educate our children. It's designed to house them.
Okay.
Many people think it's just like they call it the school to prison pipeline.
Right.
And that's what I've heard, right? But from being in there and seeing it, I never expect my students to end up in prison. That's not my goal. My goal is for them to succeed and go on in life and do things. However,
Okay.
there are many of them that are getting caught up in this system, and caught up because they're not. Schools and education, if we come back to that, it should train them to be critical thinkers.
Right.
Right? You cannot think critically if you don't have the information to figure things out. So, for instance, I teach science. Water is a thing, right? It comes in 3 states. It can be a solid. If it's solid, we call it what? Ice. Right? Because that's when it's hard. Solid, you can touch it. And then if we add energy to that, heat, the solid would turn to a what? Liquid.
Right.
Water,
Okay.
which we can drink, right?
Perfect.
And then, again, these are concepts that the basic student should know. You should understand this about life. Many people are going through and they don't understand the basic things about the facts of this planet.
Okay.
Which is what confuses them. So we got solid, we got liquid. The final state for water is gas. Now, we add more energy to the liquid water, and the liquid water will go to gas.
Evaporate.
Three states of matter. Those states of matter, all matter on our planet, is what stuff is made out of. So stuff is matter. The energy, is this making sense? If I'm not making sense?
You are.
The energy that reaches our planet comes from the sun. Understand that. All the energy that reaches our planet comes from the sun. Now, of course, human beings have taken that energy and harnessed it and made other things out of it, right? Three states of matter. Why are those three states of matter important that each individual should know? Because they're found in you. Solid. There's a solid part of you. That's your bone. There's a liquid part of you. That's the blood, right?
Right.
And the urine, the other liquids in your body.
Right.
There's a gaseous part of you. That's what you breathe. That's your lungs.
Right.
Those three states operate within the human being. That's basic information that everybody should know. What am I trying to say? We as a people are attached to this planet, and we have to know that and know that all of our answers are right here on this planet. Stop looking, we look up in other places for answers, but the answers are within us.
Okay.
When we come together and work together, we'll find the answers to our problems, all of them.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, it definitely does.
And that's what I want us to do as a people. But right now, it's so hard, and we are so divided. That's intentional. Keep us divided, because the divided people are weak.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always a group of people who come at us and take us down, because they would have to. And individually, they couldn't do it.
Right.
But we operate as individuals. The system operates as a group.
Right.
That's problematic.
Right. That's deep. Saying, just the perspective wise, as far as being under attack by multiples and not just one, and knowing that mentally, because I feel like a lot of things that you teach, even just from the seminar, they're just not it's different levels, like an onion. Like it unlayer it's one layer that works in, but it's also a perspective that's way over here. Some people will tell you, like, hey, if I say open that door, but if I give you some information that after you open the door, if you turn here and here, you'll get this. It's kind of like the information is there. You brought up like the Life movie and how the perspective of looking at that and how we
Narrative.
yeah, the narrative. Things like that. I feel like when you can take something, which was an example about the movie, and then you look at what you're dealing with and how you perceive and how you look at things. That analogy that you gave or example opened my eyes.
Was that with life?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like, man, you know what? There's a ton of things that my perspective on things and the way of thinking in real time have. It's like, whoa, I never thought about that. Yeah, that is sad when you hear that, but it was a good movie that I laughed at it all the way through.
All the way through, yeah.
Just,
And you didn't think about the man being taken out away from his family, thrown into a little cage in a prison.
Right.
And then, of course, wherever we go, we're going to live. We're going to live till we die. So in prison, he has some experiences, but is that right? Is it fair that he should be there? And should we laugh at that? Our pain is given to us in a humorous way, a comical way. And then we learn to laugh at our own pain. And we don't even understand. Again, it's because we're a divided individual. And we can't. Some of us know the answers to this. However, those people are made to seem weird or crazy, right? If I don't come to you, for instance, I'm telling you that pretty isn't pretty. So if I don't come to you as what you assume is pretty, many people will disregard what I say.
Right.
Because they can't even hear me. You understand? Because already what they see is something that turns them off.
Right.
And the symbols that we wear, right? Like I wear the symbol of the eye, the all-seeing eye of God. And people have different names for this, right? So
You keep going.
okay. They have different names for this. But the symbols that one wears tells you a little bit about their mindset and the way they think, right? For instance, when I walk up on a person and I see a cross, I know what that means. I know about where they come from. I know what they think about the world. However, not everybody is in that same frame of mind. So other people assume when they see the symbols I wear, because they've been taught many times that this is symbols of the devil or whatever, they put that on me as opposed to asking me, what does this symbol mean to me? Because symbols mean different things to different people. And you can't just assume, because many times we're taught information that leads us away from certain things. I learned young, early in life, seek and search and find out everything. Be curious about the world, because that's the only way you're going to solve problems. That's the only way you're going to figure this world out. And it is one that needs to be figured out, right? What Clarence was saying, Ballyhoo, a moment ago, is that when you come on the scene in the narrative, the way a story is told to you, most people take that story or whatever it is and they accept that as true, and that goes into their brain, and then that becomes information that they use to order the world, right? Because that's what we're trying to do. As human beings, we're trying to order this world.
You said order?
Order, right.
We're trying to order, like put
things in order.
Okay, put things in order.
Solve problems, put things in order. Because understand, human beings have been on this planet for, some people say, at least 1 million years, right? The average person assumes that the planet is about 2,000 years old. Take out your timeline and ride with me on this one.
Okay.
What they say is, if we're talking about time, right? This is the year what? 2025.
Right.
Which means we're counting something, and we've gotten to 2025, right? So if we go back, what was year 1, year 2, year 3, year 100? Things were happening then. People were on the planet. They were having relationships. They were having babies. What we've been taught, and what most people believe, is that year 1 was the first year. This is what they taught us. The first year after Jesus' death, right? And everything before that, they say, was BC, before Christ. And so most people assume nothing was happening before Christ. Everything was just in the jungle and I don't know, whatever they assume. However, there was a lot going on. And in fact, what we know is that story is not history. It's a story that we've been told from somebody's imagination, but it's not the truth of the planet. For one thing, the planet is not 2,025 years old. The planet, they say, is at least 4 billion years old. How long have human beings been here walking around doing their thing? The oldest ones go back at least 1 million years. And why do I say that? How can you just say that? Well, there are bones. There's evidence of this. That's why we say it. You're not just pulling it out from anywhere. We find these bones, and those bones didn't just show up. There was somebody that was attached to the bones at some point. There are civilizations all over the world that have been there for a long time. So let's see. What's the main point? What do I want to leave you all with today? Because I want you to take some with you. First, we've learned 3 states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. Solid would be ice, liquid is water, and then gas would be the vapor, right? That's the phases that water goes through that allows life to exist on this planet. We, human beings, are at least 80% water, something 90, We're more water than anything else.
Okay.
Because we're made, we talked about sperm and egg already. You started off in your mother's womb, you were nothing but a single cell. They call it an egg that was sitting there waiting for sperm to be fertilized. Once it was fertilized, that means sperm and egg got together. That thing started to grow. 1 cell became 2, became 4, and it just kept multiplying until it created this living organism, this baby, right? The baby is born, and then you give it to the mother. The mother is the person who's supposed to pass on all the information that the baby would need. That's what would happen in an environment where everything was normal and people were. This would be before greed, before slavery, before people were grabbed away from their families and taken and forced to work for others, right? The mother would take the baby and she would teach the baby everything it needs to know until it went off into whatever operations or organizations that this culture had. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So cultures before slavery, that's what I always say, before slavery, the intent was to teach the child to be a citizen, one who can function in the community without creating a bunch of hell. That's what we want. We want to create citizens. We want to create people who are sane, who are civil, who are not greedy. So then we start to teach them things that make them better people. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's what the system is supposed to do. We are in we're living in an illusion and a false sense of everything. Really, our ideas of what's going on the planet are not accurate, and we're gonna try and break these down daily so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Because I understand, as I sit here talking right now, it's for many people it's not registering. I get it.
Right.
It's just like when we talked about in the workshop. I'll tell you a quick story. Earth, Wind, and Fire is a group that was around for a while, if you're familiar with them. And they have, if you look on their album covers, they have been singing songs, putting down music for at least 30 or 40 years. And in their music, there is a message, right? That message is telling us about our history. If I didn't know the history, I would hear the music, I would see the images on the album cover, but it would not register because I don't know the other information that goes on underneath.
Right.
So I just see some pretty pictures and it looks good. But once I know, oh, those pyramids were built by ancient Egyptians and the ancient Egyptians were black, jet black, then that attaches me to that history and then it makes more sense.
Right.
We're going to break all of that down, and I don't say anything that I can't prove. That's first. I am a science teacher, and I'll just let you know that I was working at Dean McGee. I was an intern at Dean McGee, and I was dealing with the eyes, right? Research of the eyes. We'll get into that later, too. So I'm not talking about something that I don't understand. I'm talking about things that I've seen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I want to share those with the community because they haven't seen them. And again, for things that you have not seen, you have not experienced, you don't know that. And you should not be faulted for not knowing that. And many people will front and act like they know stuff when they don't. And I'm going to tell you that that's harmful. That's not good for you. If you don't know, you ask the question. That's the best thing to do.
I know.
That's what I tell my students. Don't front like you know something because that's not going to help you, right?
Yeah.
It's best to know. Learn it. But the problem with many of our students is even when they go in the classroom, they can't know. Why not?
Well,
The
I would think because
teachers-
they're not the information is not. Are you saying that the information is not there or taught correctly?
Yes, that's
Right.
what I'm saying.
Right.
The environment is not set up to educate. The whole environment is off. You got one adult in there and probably 28 to 30 kids. Those 30 kids are rambunctious and playing and pissed off. Many of them have these issues that we'll talk about in the future. So when they come through the door, it's not like they come through ready to learn. Sit down and let's go. They come through and many of them times they pissed off, right? So then you have to deal with that. You got to fix all that before you can start to educate. A person cannot learn if their mind is not at peace. If I'm sitting in a classroom and I'm thinking about last night he was beating on my mother. Last night we don't know where we're going to live. Or last night the police came. You want me to sit and talk about 3 times 4? You follow me?
Do you think that this is something that's always been in the system, or has it heightened here recently to you? Because I'm going to ask that question. Has it always been that way as far as the knowledge and the output that's been put out to the kids and things like that? Or is that something that is, recently been a real issue?
It's always been an issue.
Okay.
Since we've come here. The intent was never for us to be an educated people. However, what has happened is we fight all through this. It's not like we just sitting here taking it. So though we see the system and what it's doing, there are people within the system who are trying to change it, who are trying to teach. And every now and then they burst through. And there's some successes. We know there's some successes because we've seen some intelligent people out there. And we know not all of them. There are many, I've talked to people who have attended Harvard, and they're not that bright. I'll be honest with you. Because check this out. School and college, really, and I told this to my children too, is more about playing the game than it is about learning. You go through it, and you have to fulfill all these, do this and do that, write your thesis, whatever. You have to do all these things that you do. And are you really getting educated along the way? Or are you just learning a certain thing, a concept that you're going to take out into the world, a certain narrative? right? Are you learning information about yourself and about your planet that puts you in a better position and you understand how you need to live? Or are you just learning something that somebody told you and then you're going to go forward and live off that?
So what we're gonna do is hold that. We're gonna jump into a little bit more advertisement and, you know, give you guys a little gift of the music. But I want you to hold on to that because I do have a question about that having both ways. Because what you're saying is they're being taught, but right, wrong, indifferent. That's an issue, right? We're not saying that they're not being taught.
It's what they're being taught.
Right. So
Exactly.
we're gonna get right back into that. Ballyhoo Channel at Radio. Elizabeth Turner in the building, rocking with me. Y'all keep it locked in, and we just doing what we need to do. Yeah. Ballyhoo Channel at Radio.
Hey, and we're back at you. You got the Naja, this Miss Turner coming back at you. Pretty isn't pretty. That's a concept. It's literal. It's not rhetorical. That's what we're gonna talk about. That's what I want everybody to know and understand.
Yup.
I was just sitting here talking to a young sister, and I made that statement. And many times we talked about this, and some people think, well, let me just say, you ever have a conversation and you know what you intend to say, but then the receiver understands something different other than what you intend?
Right.
That's because of what's going on in their head. And people receive information in different ways. So let me make this plain. When I say pretty isn't pretty, I'm not saying that you aren't pretty. I'm saying you should be pretty to yourself. When you look in the mirror, the person that you see in the mirror, you should see and love that person. And if you don't, it's because someone else has taught you that this image right here is what's pretty and you're not. And I'm saying that that's false, that's a lie, and I can show you why it's a lie. We would need more than verbal, than just the radio to do that.
Right.
So, but that's true. We were talking about our children, because that's my passion. Our children sitting in classrooms, receiving information, but that information is not really necessarily making them smarter. It would be like if you wanted to understand the oceans and how the oceans function, but you were studying the Bible. Let's say that, right? Can the Bible teach you how the oceans function? No, they can't. So you can sit in the classroom and you can be reading certain information and you can be writing it down and getting good grades for that. But the question is, does it make you smarter in the end? We talk about the four things, the four major courses in school, right? And what are they? You learn mathematics.
Right.
You learn reading. You learn social studies. And what's the other one? That's mine.
Science.
There you go. Come on now. Science. Of those two, let's see, of those, which ones would you say is the most important? Which one would interest you the most?
Interest me, mathematics.
Math. You like math?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay. Math and science go hand in hand,
Right.
and they're both really easy. The math that the average person would need to know is very easy to understand. But the teachers in the classroom sometimes teach that in a way that makes it difficult. So many of us feel like math is something that's too hard. But math is so easy. And if I had a student in a classroom, just me and that student, or me and a few, I could bring that student to understanding in a short amount of time. Now, there are some things you're going to have to do. You have to understand multiplication. You have to understand addition. But in truth, mathematically, there's only 4 operations you do in math. What are those 4?
Addition.
Addition.
Subtraction. Multiplication. And division.
Do you know that we have students who can't do those 4? They can't do those 4. That's the basics. Once you know that, then everything else is just repeating that. Exponents. It's just repeated multiplication. That's all it is. So you learn those 4 basics, and you should learn those. What happens, you should learn that in 2nd and 3rd grade, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. And what happens if the student doesn't get it then, because it seems like real basic information, then they're in the 7th and 8th grade, and then you're trying to teach them something they should have learned in 2nd and 3rd grade, then the student feels offended. The student feels like this is too easy. These are things I have dealt with, so I know what I'm talking about. And then other students will tease instead of it being like, let's all learn this together. They're like, you don't know that, so then you're dumb. And then the student doesn't want to let anybody know that they don't know. All of these are problems that are occurring in the classroom that I've seen. I'll tell you another one, talking about pretty isn't pretty, and the way our females, the way our young girls see themselves. I have seen children come into the classroom, young girl, and if her hair is not what they call done, she can't concentrate, she can't think, she won't study, and other students will tease her about her hair or whatever, and that becomes problematic for the student. Again, because in order for you to learn, you have to be able to come in, you have to be at peace, you have to be ready to receive information.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
If they come in and they're not at peace, they're thinking about what somebody said last. Our children are hearing some very negative things in their households. I talked at the workshop about the phrases that I heard growing up. I was told you can do anything you set your mind to, right? I was told that always put aside some money for a rainy day. There was a gentleman in the session who said that he was told, sit your black ass down and come here, motherfucker. Sit your dumb ass down.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yep.
That's what he said. And I know that to be the fact because many children hear that. And you can tell when they come in the classroom, they come through the door, they're just agitated. Their spirit is agitated. So what I would say, and then most people say, because they're not looking to solve problems, they're just looking to exacerbate them. So they will say, what's the parents' fault? What I know is that many of our students are not being raised by their parents. Sometimes the parents have been snatched away, and the parents are in prison. Sometimes the parents are working, whatever. The child is raising themselves, so then they come in. And I hate for people to assume that this is all negative. I'm just talking about the problems that I see and how we have to fix them. And I think that we need to fix them because they're not going away. They're not going to go away by themselves. Again, that comes down to that individual thing. A lot of people see themselves as individuals, and that's unfortunately the way that our community is going. And individuals will never rise. You'll have some individuals who appear successful.
Right.
But you think about those individuals that you are called billionaires and you think they tough, right? This system can take them down whenever they get ready.
Right.
You've seen it happen, right? You've seen Whoopi Goldberg told to shut up, basically, right? Did you see that?
Yeah.
She said something about Palestine. Basically, she had to seal her lips.
P. Diddy.
Yeah.
Look at him.
Yeah. That's a wonderful thought. P. Diddy. Do you think he's the freakiest person in Hollywood?
I mean, that's the narrative.
Come on. There was freaks there when he got there.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That's a narrative.
Okay, that's the narrative. They putting all this on P. Diddy. But he not the freakiest one in Hollywood. Come on. Somebody freaked him out.
Right.
Why aren't they in trouble?
I think that's, the word, and not to jump off subject, you talk about the Illuminati. People do, the world, themselves, and that's normally associated with the they.
Yeah.
Right? So, it seems like with technology and how the world does with the narrative nowadays, is once you reach a certain level where you're known and the relevancy is high, the narrative is stronger, especially when it's negative. And it's kind of like you gain the world and lose your soul.
Yes.
Because they said that he had, 1,000 bottles of baby oil? Well, just think about this. If somebody did go in and they maybe saw 10, and they said, man, he had like 1,000 bottles in there.
Yes.
That narrative, 1,000, is going to carry with the weight because the relevancy, whether it's good or bad. I mean, if he says he's going to drop an album, he gets the relevancy of everyone knowing. So when something is negatively put out, it's pushed the same way.
For us.
For us. Right.
Yeah. Because, I guess the idea of taking down a brother, taking down a billionaire, in everybody else's eyes, and some of us, black people, we attack just as hard as everybody else. What I know to be true is if Diddy is a freak, and somebody freaked him out first, okay? And somebody, when he went to Hollywood, somebody did him first.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And in fact, it's on the YouTube. You can find out who did it. I'm not going to say his name because I'm getting sued, but you know what I'm saying? But freaky people are in Hollywood, period.
Mm.
And that's not that's so look at the videos. That's not a secret.
Right.
And you said the Illuminati. What is the Illuminati? That's a word that we have.
Right.
What does it represent? A group of people?
A group of people that dictate the entertainment and livelihood of people involved in it, I guess.
That's a narrative, right?
Right.
That's the narrative we got in that one word, Illuminati.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there are a group of people who control our actions.
Right. Control our actions?
Yes, control your actions. Just like what we were talking about, just like pretty isn't pretty. Yeah, are they controlling your actions? They teach you this is pretty. You go to the store, they're controlling your actions. They make you go to the store and buy this stuff so you can look like this. They make you go to the store, buy these clothes so you can represent, right? Mm-hmm. You have to represent a certain. In fact, they had even started to attack our hair at one time. Mm-hmm. That went away because I'm not changing my hair.
Is it not playing the devil's advocate or anything like that?
Play it.
But
okay.
Is it taught or is it given an option?
What taught?
Well, you said that they dictate our actions.
Are we
right?
talking about pretty?
Or in any example, like you said, we go to the store, they say that this is what pretty is.
The clothes.
They have that. Mm-hmm. Is that just simply an option, a stronger option that's available?
Option is an illusion. You have an option from these choices that I'm giving you. You don't have an option to do what the hell you want to do. You got an option to do these are the choices, right?
Right.
It's not, and that's not me. People will tell you that. We have the illusion of choice. We don't have real choice.
Right.
Because if you want to think about it, just there are certain things people in Hollywood they know they can't do. They know what they can't talk about. They know they can't talk about Israel. They know they can't talk about Palestine. Those people have been made to disappear, and now they're cowering their boots, scared to talk. Think about this. How is it that this, and I don't like to get caught up on this system, but with everything that black people are going through right now, this country has been going under the illusion that we are a system of the people, by the people, and for the people. Is that right?
Right.
Of the people, by the people, and for the people. That's what we've been saying. And we have our rights. Well, how did one man get elected into office and totally destroy we the people, our choices? We don't have nothing to do with the choice of these terrorists. I have nothing to do with that. You didn't. The average person didn't. One man got in office and changed the whole trajectory of 300 million people. You telling me they're not in control? That's control.
Well, if it's one man, then how is it they?
Because that's a perfect question. Because that one man, he's not by himself. He's representing and doing the work of a group of people.
Okay.
Because if he was doing something that they didn't agree with, what would they do?
No, you saw what they were trying to do.
Exactly. So they're just sitting back letting him do what he does because they know they will benefit from it in the end.
Okay.
And they think they will benefit from it. But I think the world is about to change. You know, they've introduced another word. They're calling it multipolarity. You've heard that?
No.
But basically what's going on is the country that we live in, the United States, has been what they call a superpower. And when you go and if you've traveled around the world, you know you have to exchange money, right? When you go into different countries. And you have your dollars, and the dollar is valuable, isn't it?
Right.
It's not anymore. It was. That's when America was a superpower, and everybody had the illusion that America was this great country, and they were doing this wonderful stuff for Israel, and everybody thought that was all a good thing. But now the cover has been exposed, and we see what's going on in Israel and Palestine, and that is horrendous. That's a problem. How they're killing those people, and I don't. Other people might not talk on it, but my soul bleeds for them. You know, those are Palestinians. I'm not Palestinian, but wrong is wrong. And there's something in us that's supposed to make us understand the difference between right and wrong. Okay, so anyway, but in this country, you can't speak on that. Especially if you get a platform like somebody like a P. Diddy, or like a Whoopi Goldberg, and the platform that they have, they cannot speak on that. You won't hear it. Now, why is that?
Because that small group is controlling it, and it filters down into their situation, I would say.
Yeah. And they don't want you messing with their money. And that's about money in Israel. And people were taught and told, this is about God. This is about, You know, these are God's people, and we're going to return them back to their land. And all that sounds good. If you are a Christian and of the Bible and you've heard those stories, sounds good. Yeah, let's return them to their homeland. But then you see what's happening over there. They had their homeland. They had some land. Then they keep taking more land and disrespecting the people. So that's a problem. We're going to wrap this up for now. Oh, no. Okay, well, are we going to wrap this up? Oh, I'm good. Anyway, the Palestinian people, bless their hearts. You know, they're right up there. Israel is right by Egypt, by the way. Egypt is old. It's been around for a long time. Remember that. The ancient Egyptians were black. I can prove that. You just have to know that. In fact, if we go back, way back in history, well, let's say we talked about time, right? 2,000 years. Most people think this is 2025. They say this is 2025. Yes? So that means they've been counting time for 2,025 years. What happened before the zero? We talked about that, right? We didn't go deep into it, but we did mention it. What happened before the zero? What's if you understand number lines? -1. What happened? -2, -3. And what we know is people have been on this planet and living, having babies, having relationships for, well, you know, this is 2025, but it's even longer, older than that. Human beings have been here on this planet, at least we can say, for 25,000 years, and they've been recording history. Now, how can you say that? Because they left that recorded history behind. There is an image, and if you look at it, again, this is difficult to do over the radio, but the image of the zodiacal signs, right? Most people think that that's just talking about astrology, Cancer, Libra. No, that's much deeper than that. That's talking about astronomy. And our planet, our entire solar system, is on a cycle that it travels throughout the universe. I'll say that again. Our entire solar system, along with all the others, it's not just sitting still. Just like our planet is not just sitting still. The planet is moving. We don't feel that because we're part of the planet. You got to understand that too. But the system, our system, solar system, traverses the universe. So it travels through a cycle, and that cycle takes roughly 25,000 years. That information is recorded and written. The problem is when we come to try and understand it, for the longest it was hidden from us. In fact, we were not even taught and told that the Egyptians were black. We were shown images. Nobody said they were white, but we were shown images of them, and those images were of white people. So the assumption is the ancient Egyptians were white. Only through study do you find out that they weren't white yesterday. They're not white today. They're what you would call a brown people or a sandy people, right? They call them Arabs. Those Arabs are the result of the black people who were there, the Europeans who came in, and the intermixing of them produced the Arab, what you call the Arab race. Now, the way they behave, their religion and their culture, what you call their culture, all of that is the way they behave as Arabs. But what they are as people, they were black people who mixed with white people and became a brown people. Can you prove that, Ms. Turner? Yes, I can. In fact, the first people on the planet everywhere were black, and they were not ignorant. I'm not talking about black. They were black people who migrated, left out of Africa, traveled all over the world, and in those various places, they became different, right? They became something else. Look at a Mexican, right? Or what you call down in the South. And they'll tell you themselves, they know that they come from a black root, African people, and then Spanish people came down there, which is why they speak the language they speak. But they too, many of them are brown, right? When you look at them, you see a Mexican, they're brown, and some of them are white, right? All of that's by choice. So what's happening on the planet? We had these black people. They moved throughout the planet, And as they moved in different terrains, different habitats, different atmospheres, they became different. Why is it that all Asians up in Asia look alike, have the same features, right? Why is it all black people down in Africa look alike? Well, when I say look alike, they have their all dark skin, right? All of them down there is because they're interacting with the environment, and that's what makes them look the way they look. We've been told lies. We got to get those lies out of our system. And one of the lies that we got to get out of our system is black people are black because they were cursed by God, and that made them black. Another thing you learn is that black is somehow some curse, something that's negative. And I won't do it today because it'll take us too much time, but the next time we get together, we're going to talk about black and what that is. Because black is a color, just like white is a color. And when you understand the physics of it, the science of it, black is, the narrative behind black is this negative. They've made it negative. Black is the devil is black. You got a black heart. So the way they talk about it, the narrative, the way they teach it, makes you feel that black is a negative. And then if you see yourself and you assume I'm black, then you take that into your spirit, and then you feel negative about yourself. That's what many of our young people are. And they don't have an answer for that. I do. You do, probably. We do. We're the adults. So we have to make an environment where our young people can grow up and feel good about themselves, not be taught negative things about themselves, right? That's what we got to work towards. We got to work towards stuff that's real. Because we're doing a lot of stuff, but it's like Kendrick Lamar say on Peekaboo. What they talking about, they ain't talking about nothing. Most people ain't talking about nothing. It's garbage. But we going to talk about something, right? We're going to get ready to close for today. Thank you guys for letting me talk to you. I love your spirit. Even though I can't hear it, I can feel it. I can feel you feeling me. So,
hey, they feeling you.
Okay.
I was just listening to you outside, and I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is it, man. Y'all give it up. It's turning in a building. Oh, that was the wrong one. Here it goes. Here it goes right here. Y'all give it up. Y'all give it up. I don't know if you did or not, but did you let the people know how they can reach out to you? And
thank you for saying that. I did not. And you can reach out to me through Gmail. Facebook would be better. Mm-hmm. I'm Elizabeth Turner at Facebook.
Okay.
Right? Elizabeth Hooks Turner on Facebook.
Okay.
On YouTube, look for Ascending Plato's Cave. There's some videos I put out there. And those videos are just lessons. You can let them play, and you can just learn certain concepts that I'm going to talk about on here too. But you can just let them play for you. It'll teach you concepts, science. I'm a science teacher, remember? And when people say science, don't get scared of that word or don't feel like, ooh, I don't. Science just means somebody has sat and observed the world and how it operates. They've understood that, and they've passed that on. That's what we call science. Understanding how things on this planet operate, like we talked about water.
Hey.
The other way is www.prettyisn'tpretty.com. You can reach me there. That's the website.
Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. And
Made
I'm
it
going to come back. Can I come back?
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
We're going to make it happen.
Right.
We about to head out of here. Like we always say, do us a favor and tell a neighbor to download the app. Ballyhoo Channel App Radio.